This past summer, I had both my hips replaced in the span of 7 weeks. And let me tell you about it. But first, hi, my name's Annette. Welcome to my channel. I'm 63 years old and talking about all things midlife. And what could be more midlife than getting your hips replaced? So I want to tell you about it. I'm sharing the story because when I was looking to get my hips replaced, I could find no information. So I think it's helpful. I hope it's helpful for you. So let me start back about 2 years ago. I've always been super healthy and athletic, but over the last 2 years, my hips started giving out, meaning that there was pain, especially in the groin area. My gait was getting narrower and narrower, and it was really debilitating and keeping me from doing all the things that I love to do, especially anything athletic. So I kept putting it off. I did go see a physical therapist. It got worse. Finally, I went to see a surgeon and found out that I have osteoarthritis in both hips. So basically, no cartilage, bone on bone. So I never did get any shots. I know some people do that. It seems to be helpful. In my mind, I was like, that's just going to be a Band-Aid for me because I'm never growing that cartilage back. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do the hip replacement. It wasn't easy though. I'm going to tell you, it was not easy. And the only reason I think that I actually went through with it was when I was at the surgeon's office for the first time and I met him, and I did have a recommendation that he was a really good surgeon. When I was there and I was checking out, the nurse said, "Oh, we had a cancellation for next Thursday. Do you want it?" And I hesitated for a second, but then I was like, okay, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it. So it didn't give me time to think and panic. I'm not a hospital person, or I don't like needles. I don't like anything to do with that. But I knew it had to be done, so I grabbed that appointment. So let me tell you a little bit about the operation itself. So first off, I had my left hip done on July 10th. And it was an in and out surgery center. So I went in the morning. They put me in a room, said, okay, get changed. I got into the bed. A couple people came in to talk to me, the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, and the nurse. And they did tell me, in terms of putting you out, that you will be put out, but also they will give you a spinal. And I was really freaked out about that. I had a spinal when my daughter was born. She was a C-section and had the worst headache for a week with that. So I was really nervous about it. The anesthesiologist told me, you know what, they do it totally different now. The needle's smaller. You probably won't even remember it. So I was nervous for sure. But a nurse came in. She gave me she said, we're going to give you something in the IV to relax me. And the next thing I knew, I was awake. And my hip had already been replaced. I was still in the same room, in the same bed. I had no recollection of the surgery at all. And as soon as I could move my legs and put some weight on my legs, they had me standing up. They did show me beforehand how to use crutches. I'd never used crutches before. I did also have a walker at home that I bought, so I would have that. So as soon as the surgery was done and you can feel your legs, they had me standing up and walked me to the bathroom. As soon as you can go to the bathroom, you can go home. So from the time that I woke up and could get standing, maybe it was an hour. So I came home, and I live in a 4-story walk up. So 4 flights of stairs. And I was very nervous about that. I thought I was going to have to rent a place to stay. They said, nope, there's no restrictions. No restrictions. So I walked up 4 flights of stairs right after my surgery. And it really wasn't bad. I mean, I had crutches. So, and the medication doesn't wear off right away. So I did not have a lot of pain. In fact, the first time I had very little pain. They will give you painkillers that you can take if you need them. I was on painkillers the first time, maybe about 24 hours. And then I was just on like Advil. So I will tell you what I had done was an anterior placement, which means that they cut in front, the front almost off to the side of your hip. I have about a 4-inch incision. You will have a scar there. The surgeon told me that. He said, a lot of people are very concerned about that. I said, I don't care about that. I would rather have new hips and get back to my life. So I do have scarring in the front, but there's different placements to when you get your hip done. The anterior placement is no restrictions and it's a faster recovery. For those people that have the posterior, they go in through the back of your thigh. They need to cut through the muscle. And I did not want to have any cutting through the muscle. And I've heard that that is a much longer and harder recovery. So the anterior, no restrictions, but of course you will be restricted at the beginning. So the first couple of days were fine. I used my walker at home. I did not need to get one of those high toilet seats. The surgeon said they don't really do that anymore, and I didn't need it. Now, you might, that's up to you, but I was perfectly fine. But here's the other thing, I'm really short. I'm 5 feet. So if you're tall, yeah, you might want to consider that. So anyway, I had a physical therapist, and I loved her so much. She came in for 2 weeks, and she would check my vitals, gave me exercises, helped me to, the best way to walk with the crutches, then eventually got me onto a cane. Within 2 weeks, after those 2 weeks, I went to physical therapy, to an actual physical therapy office. The surgeon that did my hip believes that the sooner you can get to outpatient physical therapy, the faster you're going to recover. So, and I think that's true. So I went to the outpatient physical therapy. I was, for the most part, in pretty good shape when I started this, although I had cut back on any type of activity for about 2 years before. It was a real slowing down because I honestly, towards the end, I could barely move my legs outward or even walk. So it really prohibited me from doing all the things I wanted to do, but I felt like I was still pretty strong. So that was the first hip, and it was really good. So I felt good going into the second surgery. And honestly, I really prepped myself mentally because I knew I had to do it twice. So before I went into my first surgery, I said, I am going to attach nothing negative to this. This is going to be a positive experience because I have to do it again. And it was a really positive experience. Now, my second hip, the right hip, was done 7 weeks later. When you get your hip replaced, you go back to the surgeon and they take an x-ray at 6 weeks to make sure the placement is fine, that you're doing fine. By that 6 weeks, I was off of the cane. I didn't have to wear compression socks anymore. I was at the, walking twice a day. I was really in a good place. So I was able to get my second hip done at 7 weeks. Some people can do it earlier, some people later. That really depends on you. The second hip. So now I'm going in there. I know what to expect. And while it was good, it's still, I know what to expect. So I get in there. It's all the same people, which was great. I had the same nurse, the same anesthesiologist, like everything was great. And when I went for my 6-week follow-up, I had said to the nurse, I said, you know what, my knee really, it's hurting for some reason. And he said, oh, you know what, it's like, it's that boot that they put on you, remember? And I said, no, I have no recollection at all. And he was like, wow, that's good. So anyway, I guess they do put some sort of a boot on you to keep your legs straight. So my second surgery, I get there and they're getting ready to take me into the operating room. And the first time, I don't remember any of that. I was in my bed. I woke up in my bed. So he's wheeling me down the hall and I am starting to panic. I'm like, no. This isn't how it went last time. I was completely out. He's like, don't worry about it. No, you'll be out. And he's literally running me down the hall. And now I'm starting to panic. But honestly, I remember a very vague memory. It's so vague of the spinal. But I honestly can't recall it. So I did go out. I didn't see any of it because I saw a video on Steve Carell talking about he saw all these saws and hammers. And I thought, I don't want to see that. I saw nothing. I woke up again. I was back in my bed. Same thing. They get you up on your feet. And I came back to my apartment, climbed the 4 set of stairs again. Now I'm going to tell you the second one was a little more challenging because I didn't have the 100% strong leg to balance on because I had already had the other hip done. So it was a little bit of a challenge getting, my first hip strong enough to support the second hip. It all worked out, but there were a couple of things. The second hip, I had to go back the next day. There was some sort of bleeding through the dressing. So they went back and changed it. It was fine. That was all good. But the main thing with the second hip, so if this happens to you, don't panic, because I definitely did. The second time, my leg was longer than, my right leg was longer than my left leg by a lot. Like I was catapulting over my leg with my crutches. So I was really so freaked out about that because I thought, I don't want to have a limp. I don't want to have to wear lifts in my heels, assuming I'm going to wear heels again. And but my in-home physical therapist did make me feel so much better about it by telling me it's very common. It was in the material for the hip replacement that I got from the surgeon, but I skipped over it thinking, oh, that's not going to happen to me. But it's very common because when you lose the cartilage in your hips and then you get a hip replacement, they have to adjust because it's going to settle in to like your hips and to your spine. And I was told by my physical therapist that if you have a good surgeon, which I did, comes highly, highly recommended, and if they use robotics, it's pretty precise. So it's very, very rare for you to come out of it with one leg longer or shorter than the other. But it did take up to a month for my legs to level out. Now I can tell you I don't feel any difference at all between the two of them. So second hip replacement was a little bit longer. I had a little bit more pain. So I stayed on the painkillers a bit longer. Like every operation is different. So it was hard because I had the first operation that was so simple and easy and very little pain. And then my second operation, I was really impatient to get back to where I was before because I tracked it. And I was like, oh, I was already past this last time, but that's not, every operation is different. So I did learn that. Went back to physical therapy after 2 weeks, like I did last time. But this time when I went back to physical therapy, I was on the cane still, which was fine. Again, it was hard because I had to balance on the other leg that I already had the hip surgery on. And then, you know, to keep the two legs the same strength, it was hard because I had to now wait for my new hip to be able to support weight when I want to do exercises on the old hip, if that makes sense. So, but it all worked out in the end. Yes, I'm here to tell you, I am exactly now 2 months out from my second surgery. Got my first surgery July 10th, my second surgery August 28th, and now we're at the end of October. So I'm walking twice a day. I did start working out again. This is really where it all begins, right? Because of being just sedentary and going through 2 operations, it's a lot. You have to give yourself some grace and say, I will come back stronger maybe than I was before, but I will come back. And you have to kind of talk yourself off the ledge, especially if you're someone like me who's not used to being sedentary, who's never had an operation, who's never had to heal. Yeah, so, but all in all, I will tell you, I have absolutely zero regrets. Zero regrets. So if you are thinking about getting your hips done, it is an absolute game changer. What they can do now with surgery and how quickly and how fast the recovery is, I'll tell you, I got both of mine done on a Thursday. My first one, I was back at work on Monday. Now, I work from home, so I am able to sit at a desk, but also walk around, so I'm sure that made a difference. My second hip I had done on a Thursday, and I was back to work on a Tuesday, just because I thought, you know, I probably should have given myself that extra day last time. But honestly, if you're off the meds, you're pretty clear. You keep your foot elevated, you walk around, you have to walk around. Even now, you know, you want to walk as much as possible. Walk, walk, walk as much as you possibly can. And I'm happy to, because I love to walk. And part of what pushed me to getting the hips done was I was not able to do that in a way that was enjoyable. So I hope this was helpful for any of you that are thinking about getting your hips replaced. You will be amazed at how many people our age, again, I'm 63, amazed at how many people our age and younger that have gotten their hips replaced. So, because no one talks about it, and that's why I'm talking about it. It is a game changer. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave a comment, reach out to me. I've talked to so many people about it. It was an amazing, positive experience for me. I will preface it with everybody's different, but you cannot keep putting it off and putting your life on hold, because you know what? We're getting older, and some of these things we have to do and we have to face, whether it's getting a hip replacement or a knee replacement or getting a hearing aid or glasses. It doesn't matter. We're getting older, but there's so many things that can be done. There's no reason to suffer through it. Look at, you're going to be 10 times better than you were before the surgery. That's how I feel. But now, of course, I have to get back to where I was. So I will be documenting that as well. So stay tuned. But I really hope this was helpful for you. Thanks for joining me. Would love to see you again next week when I talk all things midlife. Grab a coffee, grab a tea, grab a cocktail. I'm all for it. But yeah, go ahead and subscribe, and hope to see you next week.